Goblin launch detected.
Hey gang, and welcome back. Just so you know, you can use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, one word, at flipsidegaming.com to get 10% off orders $10 or more. You can also use the promo code at Original Magic Art on everything except for paintings. And finally, you can use the code at mtg.multizone.ca to get 10% off of your orders of singles. Using the code will help you save some money and help out the channel at the same time. Just thought you might want to know, Flipside Gaming is doing another giveaway, this time for a box of Modern Horizons. From May 13th until June 16th, if you place an order of $10 or more, you'll be entered to win. You can now also enter for free by mailing Flipside Gaming a self-addressed envelope or postcard with your information on it. I've also included a link below with more information. It's one entry per person, so good luck and have fun. Today's very special game is an Oathbreaker one. A lot of people have been asking when I was going to post something for this, and frankly I didn't even know. I haven't built a deck, I don't really plan to, and the only reason we were able to film this game was because someone who was at the shop had several decks that we could use. In today's game, Max is playing Huatli, Radiant Champion, and her signature spell is Selesnya Charm. He keeps a Plains, a Verdant Catacomb, Scattered Groves, Command Tower, Swords to Plowshares, Tristani Discordant, and Collective Blessings. New to the channel is Martin, playing Arlinn Cord, whose signature spell is Moon Mist. He keeps a Forest, a Mountain, Pirehurt Wolf, Somber Wall Alpha, Scorned Villager, Rhythm of the Wild, and Skarg the Rage Pits. I am playing the Japanese alternate art version of Liliana Dreadhorde General, and my signature spell is Liliana's Triumph. I keep 2 Swamps, Commander Sphere, Never, Graph Harvest, Death Baron, and Liliana's Mastery. Lastly, Nick is playing Sarkhan Unbroken, and his signature spell is Dragonstorm. He keeps a Rattleclaw Mystic, Steam Vents, Temur Ascendancy, Dragonlord's Servant, Bear Umbra, Botanical Sanctum, and Dragon Tempest. Nick wins the die roll and starts us off. Nick draws and plays a tap Steam Vents. I play a Swamp and cast Graph Harvest. Martin plays a Forest and passes. Max plays a tapped Scattered Groves, passing to Nick. Nick plays an untapped Botanical Sanctum and casts Rattleclaw Mystic before passing. I play a Swamp and pass. Martin plays a Mountain and brings out Scorned Villager. Max plays a Command Tower and brings out a Tarmogoyf. Nick draws and brings out his Dragon Speaker Shaman, having missed his land drop return, so he passes. I play a Swamp and cast Commander Sphere, passing. Martin plays another Mountain and casts Rhythm of the Wild. He then passes turn. Max plays a Plains and casts a Knight of the Reliquary, passing to Nick. Nick draws and casts Herald's Horn, naming dragons, and heads to combat. He swings his only creature at Martin, who takes the hit. I play another Swamp for turn and cast Liliana's Mastery, gaining 2 zombies as the enchantment enters. Martin plays another Mountain, which is glared out sadly, and he casts Arlinn Cord. He uses her 0, making a 2/2 Wolf, and transforms the Walker. Max draws and plays a Tireless Tracker. He then plays a Verdant Catacomb, gaining a clue token and passing to Nick. Nick looks at the top card of his library, and it's not a dragon. He puts it to hand and casts Miri's Guile. We then see a Dragonlord's Servant hitting the field, reducing the cost of any dragon Nick casts by a cumulative total of 4 colorless, and he passes turn. I play a Swamp, and Max does whatever this is. I then tap out to cast Mikaeus the Unhallowed, and swing both of my zombie tokens at Martin's flipped Arlinn Cord. As they have Menace, it makes blocking bad, so Martin just lets Arlinn take the hit and puts her back to the command zone. Martin draws and plays Grove of the Burnwillows. He pays 6 to cast Arlinn, Voice of the Pact, and downticks her to make a 2/2 Wolf, who gains a +1/+1 counter as it enters. He then passes, and at the end of turn, Max cracks the verdant catacomb to go and find a temple garden, losing 3 life total. He then uses swords to plowshares on Macias, and I gain 5 life. Max plays a Plains and gains another clue token. He then casts Tristani Discordant, gaining 2 soldier tokens. He swings a Tarmogoyf at me, who hits me for 3, and he passes to Nick. Nick uses his Miri's Guile trigger to rearrange the top 3. He reveals Intet from the Horn trigger, drawing it and then drawing for turn. Nick then taps all of his mana to cast Intet for 3, which seems pretty good for a 6/6 flyer. I draw for turn, playing a swamp in my main phase, and casting a Death Baron and then a Plague Belcher. I swing both of my tokens at Max, who blocks one of them with both of his lifelinking soldier tokens. He gains 4 and loses 4 from my unblocked zombie, meaning that his life total doesn't change. That is, until the blocked token dies. This triggers the Belcher, and all of my opponents lose 1. Martin plays a Skarg Rage Pits as his land for turn, and he brings out a Huntsmaster of the Fells, gaining 2 life and a Wolf token. Both of these gain a +1/+1 counter from Arlinn, and Martin then passes. Max plays a land and gains a clue token. He then casts Huatli, and he upticks her, gaining a loyalty counter for each creature on the field and 1 from just doing it. Max then swings a tracker at me, who I block with the Belcher. The 2 trade, and Max then passes. Nick uses his Guile again, rearranging the top 3. He draws for turn, and plays a Tropical Island. Moving to combat, Nick swings Intent at me for 6, which I have no choice but to take. He pays the 3 for Intent's ability, and gets to exile the top card, revealing it and casting Xenagos the Reveler. Nick then upticks the Walker, gaining him 2 red and 2 green. He uses 1 of each, and taps the Mystic for a blue to cast Chimera Ascendancy, and then drops Dragon Tempest. With nothing else, Nick passes. I draw, and I cast Never to blow up the Huntsmaster. I then use the Aftermath half of the card to cast Return, exiling Max's Sword to Plowshares, and making a 2/2 zombie token. I then pass to Martin. Martin casts Ronus' Monument in his main phase, and pays 3 to cast a Gyrereach Bandit. This lets Martin pump one of his wolves by +2/+2, and gives it Trample. The Bandit then also gains a counter from Arlinn as it enters. Moving to combat, Martin swings the pumped wolf at Huatli, but Max blocks with the knight. Before moving to damage, Max activates the knight, sacrificing a Plains. He goes and grabs a Wooded Foothills, cracking it and taking 1 to find a Dryad Arbor. The knight is now larger than the wolf, and he puts it down. In Martin's second main phase, he then downticks Arlinn to make another wolf token. At the end of turn, Max cracks one of his clues to draw a card. Max starts his turn off by downticking his commander, gaining an emblem. He now gets to draw whenever a creature enters the battlefield under his control. Max then plays Shanna, Sissy's Legacy, and draws a card as she enters. He then casts Eternal Witness, and is sad when he remembers that the sword was exiled. He brings back a Plains, and draws from the emblem. Max then plays the Plains, and passes to Nick. Nick uses his Guile trigger, rearranging the top 3, and then reveals an Utvara Hellkite to the Horn trigger. Nick then upticks Xenagos in his main phase, and he brings out the Hellkite. He uses the Dragon Tempest trigger to target and deal 2 damage to the Dryad Arbor, and with the ability on the stack, Max taps the Arbor, floating a green to help crack a clue. Nick then puts Bear Umber on Intet, and he swings the Hellkite at me, and Intet at Martin. This in turn triggers the Utvara Hellkite's ability, giving Nick 2 Dragon tokens, who trigger the Dragon Tempest 1 by 1. He deals 3 to Max with the first trigger, and then 4 to Tristani. He also draws 2 cards from the Ascendancy as the dragons enter. The attacking dragons then connect, dealing 6 to me and 8 to Martin. Nick layers his triggers so that he untaps his lands first, and then pays for Intet's ability. The exiled card this time is a Rootbound Crag, which he plays. I draw and tap out to cast a Sepulchral Primordial in my main phase, bringing back the Huntsmaster and Tireless Tracker, since Nick has no creatures to steal. I gain 2 life and a wolf token from the Huntsmaster hitting the field, and then move to combat. I swing both zombies at Nick, who blocks 1 with the Servant and a Dragon token, and he then takes 4. Martin casts a Somber Wall Alpha in his main phase, which pumps the Bandit thanks to the Monument trigger by +2/+2 and gives it Trample. He then drops a Convicted Killer, who pumps the Wolf token by +2/+2 and Trample as well. He has both creatures that he casts gain haste from the Rhythm triggers, and he swings everything at Nick. And even with blocks, Nick still gets taken out. Max draws for turn and plays a Plains. He realizes that Martin is now completely open, and he brings out a Sublime Archangel. He draws as the Angel enters, and Max then casts a Hollowed Spirit Keeper, drawing again as it enters. Max then moves to combat, swinging Shanna at Martin, who gets 6 Exalted triggers, pumping her to be lethal, and with Martin taken out, Max then passes. I draw for turn, and desperately need a board wipe to save me at this point. I play a Swamp, gaining a clue. I then float a black and crack the Sphere to draw a card. And with no answer, I head to combat. I swing everything at Max, hoping somehow he fails to block. He blocks 2 on one of the tokens, and then 1 on each for the Tracker and the Wolf token. Before moving to combat damage, he taps most of his creatures to help cast Court of Calling. He grabs a Voice of Resurgence and puts it to the field. Moving to combat damage, I only put the damage on the Witness from the double block, and Max only takes 5 from the Primordial. In my second main phase, I then cast a Restless Dead and a Gravecrawler before passing to Max. Max draws and recasts Huatli in his main phase. He downtakes her to pump the Sublime Archangel by +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures he has. He then swings her at me, and she gains another +6/+6 from the Exalted triggers. She takes me out. Game review time. So, I don't think it's fair to make any kind of critical assessment on the format having only played 1 game and with a deck that's not even mine. I will say that it felt an awful lot like whenever I play my Daretti deck, and I'm not sure whether that's a good or a bad thing. There seem like a lot of good ideas around, but barring a sudden spark of interest for me, I probably won't be filming this very regularly. In terms of critical review for this game, I think it may have been a mistake for Nick to not kill someone during the turn where he had the Utvara Hellkite out. I think if he'd taken Martin out and left Max alive, he would have been able to block Max's creatures a lot better than Martin's. Martin had a much wider board than Max did, and I think that may have cost Nick the game. There were also a few turns where I probably should have been attacking with my zombie tokens, but opted to keep them back for blockers. I think Martin also could have attacked a couple turns and didn't, and this is probably chalked up to the fact that he hasn't played Magic in 5 years, so being introduced to a new format like Oathbreakers was probably a bit overwhelming. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/MTGMudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.